Hello, Chasing Dreamers. Welcome to our Thursday night presentation of Chasing Dreams Live. Happy to have you here today. We do have a special guest. I'm pretty excited about this session because I've been promising you this for a couple of weeks now and it has materialized and I'm excited. Hi, Janet. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So excited to see you. So I'm going to invite my Instagram live followers, hi Samantha, to jump across to our Facebook page or YouTube page where we're streaming live, and you'll actually be able to see my guest. He won't be streaming on Instagram live this evening. So if you don't mind jumping across, because I'm going to actually sign out of Instagram shortly, but our guest this evening will be discussing NFTs and its implications for the publishing industry. So I definitely think this is one that is worth changing formats for tonight. So as usual, we always get started with a little bit of chasing dreams and goals and how we're making progress on those. So we always talk, my YouTube, Samantha, it is Lisa McLean Publications. Let me type it in so that you can hop across so we can get started in 2 minutes. There you go. Nice. So my little step to chasing my dreams this evening, and I hope you'll share yours in the chat. This week, it was all about embarking on new projects. So I jumped into a couple, I won't tell you what they are, but really stretching myself as an author this week. And the only thing I can tell you is looking at slightly different methodologies, slightly different formats for some of my publications. So those will be coming. So my challenge to you this week is step out of your comfort zone. Mary, thanks for joining us. I'm inviting everyone to jump across to Lisa McLean Publications on YouTube or Facebook because we have a special guest this evening. So without further ado, because I'm pretty excited, I would like to introduce our guest. And if you cannot see him, you are on Instagram, and I'm going to encourage you to head across to YouTube and Facebook. Our guest this evening is Trevor Forrest. Hi, Trevor. And he is the founder of 876 Solutions. 876 Solutions provides open source-based technology solutions for the Caribbean market. And his focus is driving the improvement of ICT standards across the private and public sectors in order to increase business productivity, efficiency, and profitability. He's also one of a handful of certified blockchain architects in Jamaica and in the wider Caribbean. And it is actually wearing this cap that excites me the most this evening because he will be talking about NFTs, which is very much grounded in blockchain technology. So welcome, Trevor. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Lisa. Thanks for the invite.
So when I actually started advertising this session this week, I did have a couple guests who reached out and asked, well, what are NFTs? So I'm going to ask you to just kind of give us a context. So what is blockchain technology, and by extension, what are NFTs?
All right, so let me just start with just to demystify what the letters mean. So NFT stands for non-fungible token. All right, so that some people are going to be like, what is that? So I tend to speak about NFTs in two ways. One, around the problem it solves, but two, trying to define what fungible means and then what non-fungible means. And then somewhere in the middle of that, everything makes sense. So when something is fungible, it can be exchanged for something that is similar to it. So like a $1 bill, that's a fungible item because you can take that $1 bill, exchange it with another $1 bill and it still has the same value, right? Um, However, a non-fungible token is something that is unique. So if I have something and I want to exchange it with you, uh, the value is different. So non-fungible means that it is unique. Even though it may look the same, there is a particular feature about it that makes it unique. Um,
Mhm.
that's really the difference between what is fungible and what is non-fungible. So if you think about like a ticket or a plane ticket, right? When you have your ticket is a non-fungible item. Reason being that there's nobody else that has that particular ticket. Okay,
Mhm. Mhm.
that allows you to get on the plane and go collect your luggage and all that kind of stuff. But that particular ticket with the barcode and all of that stuff on it is unique, and when you possess it, you're the only one that has that. So that is a non-fungible item. Um, you can take it even as far as a car. Uh, your car, the car that you drive, is unique to you. It has a VIN number that says this particular car is, uh, uh, belongs to Lisa McLean, and you have a whole bunch of documents around it. But the car itself, even though it looks like a whole bunch of other cars of the same model and make, that particular car itself is unique, and you may do your own little things to it that customizes it to you. A Honda CRV is a Honda CRV, but Lisa's Honda CRV is different from Trevor's Honda CRV because the VIN numbers are different. There may be little things in the car that are different, and I may add certain things to it. Put on some rims or something. Um, that item is a non-fungible item. So that's generally what non-fungible means. Now, when you start to get into non-fungible tokens, you're like, okay, how does this token thing come in? And I try to explain that from the standpoint of the problem it is trying to solve. So if you're an artist, if you're a creator, generally, and in this case, we'll be talking to authors or publishers or so on. One of the biggest challenges that you face is how do you control uh, duplication of your creation, but even more so, how do you ensure that when you create something and when you sell it, um, that you'll always get what your due is, right?
Mhm.
What is due to you, and then the fancy word for that is royalty, right? And the challenge has always been that after you sell an item to a person, you sell them a book, they give you money, they get the book. What happens to the book after that? You know nothing about, right? Perfect example. You may create a piece of art as an artist, and you sell it to me, and you might sell it to me for $1,000. All right. Okay,
Mhm.
great. So now Lisa created a work of art, so sold it to Trevor for $1,000. All right, great. So Lisa gets $1,000. I get a painting. But in a year's time, somebody comes to my house, sees that painting, and says, "Wow, I love that painting. It speaks to me. I'll give you $10,000 for it." Okay, now what happens there is Trevor gets $10,000, and Trevor's friend gets the painting. The creator of that painting doesn't see any of that money.
Right.
Unless, of course, I want to, out of the goodness of my heart, give the artist some of what I collected. But that's a problem because that work that you've created could change hands many times over a period of time. And the only time you get anything from it is the first time you sold it. Right? And that's And that happens right now with tangible things that you can see, touch, and feel.
Right, right.
Um, and similarly with books, there's a lot of trust in the publisher that what they tell you is sold is what is actually sold.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
as such, your royalties or what you get back from that is based on a trust that must exist between you and the publisher. So that if the publisher says you sold 1,000 books, you have to believe them.
Right.
But hopefully it's not that you sold 4,000 books and they're telling you sold 1,000 and they're only paying you for 1,000. How do you
Mm-hmm.
know? How do you keep track of that? Right? Um, and again, this is in the let's call it the analog realm where you actually have hard copy books or hard copy pieces of work. How do you as a creator ensure that you always get your royalty when anything that you've created is sold, no matter how many times it's sold, right? How do you ensure that? So it's a problem, and it's a problem in the analog world, right? It happens in music. It happens in uh, you know, it happens to authors. It
Mm-hmm.
happens to painters. It happens to all these, so now, if you layer on another complexity to that, well, let's take that into the digital realm. Now, in the digital realm, if you thought keeping check or control of hard copies was hard, well, in the digital realm, it's way more difficult because it's so easy to take digital content and move around it. So think about when when you go on the internet and you see a graphic or a picture that you like, you just right click and download it.
Yeah.
You have it. Um, you go to different sites that will say, oh, these are royalty free and these you have to pay for. And the only way they protect against people just taking and using your service, they put watermarks on them so that if you do that download thing and you try to use it, you'll see the watermark on it and so on. So they do that because in the digital realm, things are very portable,
Right.
right? Okay. Now we're moving into that realm, and well, I shouldn't say moving. We're there, but we're constantly moving into the digital realm. So the bigger challenge now is, well, if I have a book or any creative piece that I've manufactured, let's just say, how do I prevent people from you know just accessing my work
Mm-hmm.
at no cost without paying me? And again, another example, you go to a site, they say, oh, you have to sign up or pay for this document, and when you do that and you pay for it, they send you an electronic document in PDF form, and after you get that document, you pay one time for it, you can share it with all your friends.
Yep.
Author technically would only get paid once for that digital asset because now I can just email it to whoever I want to email it to. This is a problem because how do you now ensure that every time somebody pays for it or accesses it, you get paid?
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem. That's the challenge. That's the challenge that you face as creatives now, um, especially when things have gone so fiercely digital. Uh, you would recall the times when they had records, vinyl records. Then you went to CDs, and people thought, "Oh, it's the greatest thing." The record companies thought it was great, but then CD duplicators came in. So one person bought the original and then duplicated it and gave it away, or sold it themselves. The original creators never saw any of that. Then this guy Steve Jobs decides that he's going to create a place that you can go and download MP3s, which are, this file format that you can listen to music. And people catch on to that and they say, oh, gee, well, if I can get this file on my device, then I can share it with all my friends.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the artists now, who, spent all the time in the studio creating all of this stuff, where's the revenue for all that work? Right. So that's the big problem. Now, what NFTs through blockchain technology does is it seeks to solve that problem. Never before has there been a technology that has facilitated value exchange in the digital realm that protects and ensures that whatever you create in
Mm-hmm.
that space is created in such a way, or can be created in such a way, that regardless of how many times it's exchanged, you will always get your royalties. And not only that, you, the creator, you don't need a publisher to tell you how many were sold or how many are in whose possession and so on. That system itself can actually tell you, who the owners are, how many times it's changed hands, and so on. So that's really what the excitement around the whole idea of NFTs is. And I'm trying to really explain it in non-technical terms, so that the general idea of what the purpose of NFTs is kind of, sinks in. Um, Now, how does it do this? How does it ensure that you get, what is due to you? Um, well, what an NFT does is it creates what is called a certificate of ownership or authenticity for a particular digital asset that you create, right? So if you created a book in digital form, um, once you create that book as an NFT, a whole bunch of things happen to that particular digital item that ensures that that item is, one, unique,
Mm-hmm.
and whatever happens to that item, there is always a record stored in this, uh, distributed ledger called the blockchain. And once it's stored there,
Mm-hmm.
the information that is stored there can never be changed.
Right.
Every transaction that occurs is always recorded. So as it exchanges or changes hands, everything that happens to that thing that you create is recorded. So you
Okay.
don't you will always get information about what is happening to this thing that you created. Why? Because every time it exchanges hands in the digital realm, a set of rules governs that. And because those rules are there and they're always happening in the background, um, unbeknownst to the people who are doing things with this thing you created, you will always know what is happening to your item. Not only will you know what is happening, but if you create this item in such a way that it says, listen, when I create this thing and I'm selling it, I want to sell it for $10.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever somebody pays for it, I get my $10. But whenever it is sold again, I
Mm-hmm.
always will get 20% of whatever it is sold for. And all of that kind of information is built into that item that you create. So no matter what happens to it along its journey, while you're alive and even after you're gone, it's always governed by those rules that you implemented when you created it. So you say, listen, I want this thing to sell for $10. And whenever it is sold again, I want 20% of whatever the selling price is. Right? So think about that for a second. The first time you sell it for $10.
Right.
But then somebody else might want to buy it, and they might offer the current owner $200. Now, when that owner um, changes, when that item changes ownership for that $200, built into that transaction is 20% for Lisa.
Right, right. So the price is not fixed either. It is almost like an auction, right?
Right. So you're getting your royalties.
Yeah.
The point, whatever it sells for, you are getting your royalties. So if it sells 50 times at 50 different prices, you're getting 20% of the sell price every time.
Okay.
And they can't control that. You the creator built that into that item when you created it. So one of the nice things about the digital realm, but it's also one of the nice things about the blockchain technology. So once you create those rules,
Hmm.
those rules stay with that item.
So I'm curious, right? Because you said, all right, we have essentially an NFT is a digital file, right? So most of us in the publishing world
Right.
create a PDF, or if it's an ebook and you're uploading to an online platform, then they have their own, it's a PUB file or whatever it is.
Right. Right. Mhm.
Is that what an NFT? What is an NFT digital?
Right.
Because what you're saying to me is, because if I
What's
sell a
the
PDF,
format?
I can't track it. So what type of file is an NFT? What type
Right.
of digital?
Okay. So what you're asking speaks to how do you create an NFT? Because
Okay.
an NFT is not a PDF, because you can't track, or an NFT is not a Word document, right? Um, an NFT can be created from a Word document or from a PDF or anything that is digital. Any digital asset,
Yeah.
whether it's an Excel document, a Word document, a PDF, or a JPEG file you did in Microsoft Paint, right? Anything that's digital is considered like an asset, and you can actually create an NFT from it. Now, the process of creating an NFT is called minting, right? And that's kind of cool, because it's like you're creating money, because that's the process that is used to create money. So the process of creating an NFT, because an NFT is a very special kind of asset, of digital asset, uh,
Hmm.
because the features that it has are very different from the features that a PDF has, right? Because there are things you can't do with a PDF that you can do with an NFT, and it is the nature of the creation process that makes that NFT so special. So the process of creating an NFT is minting. So like when you type a document in Microsoft Word and then you say save as PDF, right? That's a process that occurs on your computer. When you want to create an NFT, you have to go through a process of minting to create it. In that process, you can dictate what the NFT should sell for.
Okay.
You can dictate all rules that you know follow that particular NFT along its life cycle. Um, what is also important is to realize that there may be a cost for creating an NFT,
Right.
right? And the reason for that is the environment that is the blockchain and NFTs was originally designed to allow you, the creator, to engage directly with the purchaser. No middleman,
Right.
right? No publisher in between doing things. It created an environment where you, the author, would have direct interface with the buyer, and both parties would always be guaranteed that if I bought this book, the book would come to me, and as the author, you would get the payment for it. So uh, there is a process by which you create NFTs. The process is called minting. And the next question we will where and how do you do that? Uh, so there are what we call um, marketplaces that provide the service to
Mm-hmm.
create NFTs, right? The infrastructure and the software to do it. There are places you can actually go to create NFTs. Um, some of the most popular ones are a place called OpenSea. Another one is Rarible. There are dozens of them out there. OpenSea is perhaps the most popular one. Um, and people go there and they take their different works and they go there and they follow the instructions, they upload and answer some questions in a form. The system goes through, does its thing, does a cryptographic process and applies the rules that you say you want. And once that's done, it it then takes that asset that you've created and puts it in the marketplace, just like you would see a product on Amazon, right? So it
Ah,
has its price, it has, you see what it looks like, and if somebody wants to purchase it, they just go to that marketplace and they buy it just like they would buy something on Amazon. Now,
so when
what
you sell, sorry, when you sell your NFT, do you need, how do you access it? Because it's, do you
right?
have to be able to read it through OpenSea or read it through Rarible, or it can be downloaded and you can just read it?
Great, good question. So what the NFT is a certificate of ownership
Mm-hmm.
for that item that you have created. And this is where we're going to get into the stuff that really interests authors and creators. So um, when you create that NFT and it is put up there, the person who buys it gets a certificate of ownership, and that now says that they are the owner of that particular item,
Right.
right? It's only one item. Why? It's unique. Every NFT is unique. Remember that. Non-fungible things are unique. So if you created 10 books, if you minted 10 books, every one of those, even if they said they had the same content in it, every single one of them would be unique. And this is how NFTs start to play into publishing and so on, because uh, now you're talking about value through rarity, um, value through uh, an item being special in some way,
Mm-hmm.
um, and the value through being able to offer a direct interface between author and buyer, which perhaps never existed. So right now, the interface between authors and buyers oftentimes is, okay, I'm having a book signing.
Mm-hmm.
So this is how I get to see the author. I get a signature in the book, and
Yeah.
that's a, well, with an NFT you can do that. But what you guarantee is that special item that you offer with that book only goes with that book,
Right.
and it is special. So the person who has that can brag and boast, say, you see this thing, nobody has done not like this, because when the author created it, when they created this particular one, they put something in this one that is not in any other one. So even though
Right.
you might have the same book, it has the same looking cover and whatever, or um, same content, there is something attached to this particular one that makes it unique and different, and that makes people feel special, right? It also speaks to the value of that particular item that you create, right? So that is where NFTs become important in publishing, because what happens is you are now creating limited edition by default, unique items
Mhm.
that you, the author, can choose to add value to individually.
Right.
That totally changes the value of that item,
Right.
right? Um, and all of that is done when you create it, because you have the ability to do special things for each item that you create. And when the person buys it, they have a certificate of ownership that says this item is mine.
Right. Right.
Right now, in purchasing that, they can download. So if it's a book, they can download the book.
Hmm.
They can do whatever they want to do with it after that. If somebody asks them for a copy of it, that's why they get a copy. They don't get the original. The original says that this person who purchased it is the owner. If you have another version of it, fine. But this version is the original version. And there's nothing anybody can do to forge that and that is important, because when you have forging of pieces that have been created, there are people out there selling them. And again, what happens? You don't get anything from that. What happens now is there is a surefire way to determine the authenticity of the item. How? Because when each item is created, it is written to the blockchain. It cannot be changed. It's very secure, cryptographically created, and so on. And there is a place that someone can go to determine if this thing that they're being offered is authentic.
Right. Right.
And if it's not authentic, then it's not going to fetch the
Right.
price, right? But if it is authentic, they may then say, well, I want to pay a certain amount for it. And
Okay.
if it's sold for $10, the first time, and they decide they want to spend $1,000 for it, the creator of that item gets the percentage, and there's nothing anybody in the transaction process can do to prevent that. It happens automatically because the rules governing the existence of that item is
Hmm.
embedded in the item, right? So you may find that you could create a book that says, okay, anybody who buys this book, um, whenever they buy this book, they will get a chance to have lunch with you, and then um, the next book that you release, they'll get it for free. Now that's built into purchasing this first book.
Yeah.
Um, well, the thing about it is, if they sold it, the rules would still apply. Now think about it. There might be somebody who really wants to have lunch with you, who sees that as value, because they over time they've
Yeah.
come to admire you as an author, and they say, oh my gosh, listen, yeah, the book is $10, but I'll pay 100 for it because I get to meet this person. Right?
And I like that aspect of it, right? Because now you can be creative in what
Yeah,
you're bringing your audience. It's
yeah.
just the text. You really
And
can
it,
have a little fun there.
and it can be unique for each item. So you might write a book, right? And um, uh, the first minted copy of that book has a graphic image in the middle of the book, right?
Mm.
That perhaps some artist that you know who is famous gave to you, and you put it in the middle of that book. Then the second book that you create has a different image in the middle of the book from another artist,
Right.
right? And you could literally change the uniqueness of each one of them. So that what tends to happen now is that you might have people deciding that, listen, I want the book that Lisa created with this image in the center, in the middle of the book. Um, in fact, I want to have the collection of these, right? Because now I have a unique version of
Mhm.
this book. And to come to think of it, only 10 of them were created, right?
So,
And
so I have another question for you, because now what it gets me thinking. Okay, so when you publish, you have to you have to register for an ISBN, right? For
uh,
each format of that book, whether it's an ebook, whether it's a
very good.
physical copy. How does that work with NFTs?
Right. So here's what's happening with that now. Because this is where it's kind of turning the publishing industry on its head. Because I think if you go back to the history of the ISBN numbers, it was like a tracking system, um, or a registration system, so to speak, for the books that you would create. Thing
Right.
about it is, when you create an NFT and it goes on the blockchain, by virtue of doing that, it has a unique identifier.
So you don't actually have to apply for IS. Okay. And
Because ISBN is really, I mean, for lack of a better description, terribly simplifying it, an interface between you and the publisher, and the different outlets or ways in which that you would be collecting your royalties, right? The thing about it is, all of that is already built in to how the blockchain works and how NFTs are created, right? So now there already is a registration and auditing system there already.
right, right. So it
So
is outside of,
right, and
yeah,
the thing about it is, um, depending on the platform that you use, it's publicly viewable. So you can see the genesis of a particular book or any work that you've created, and you can track its life from conception to what happens in 50 years. And the other thing about it is, and this is something that plays a lot into the music industry, is because it's turning that one on its head as well. um, uh, Legacy and estate,
hmm,
what you can pre-program into a particular NFT is that, this is what percentage will accrue every time it changes hands. But if I die, all
right.
that goes to here, or
Okay,
this
okay.
person, and it can't change. It's built into it. It is embedded into it. It is
Mhm.
seared into that particular item. That says whatever happens to that item after I'm no longer in existence,
Right.
what happens, and you don't worry about that anymore because you built it in from day one. So you write the will for the book the day you create it, right?
Nice,
So
nice, nice.
and it's a double-edged sword, because if you change your mind, you really can't change that rule.
Yeah.
but but the thing about it is, it allows you to ensure that you get your royalties, your family, maybe your kids, your relatives that you deem fit and whatever. It's built in, it's seared into the digital asset itself. These things you can't do now. You can't do these things now, even with tangible items,
Right.
right? The challenge was, well, it's when you go digital, it's going wickeder. But with blockchain technology and NFTs layered on top of that, you now have an entirely new way of functioning in the digital realm. One, without the middle player. Two, direct interface between creator and consumer. But also management and auditing of, and ensuring that you get your due, your royalties, regardless of what happens to the piece that you created.
Exactly. Right.
Right? That's what NFTs mean to uh, creators, authors. Um, it'll get to a point where if you don't want to treat with a publisher, you will now be creating your fan club, and you will have direct engagement with them. like your followers on social media.
Right.
Some of these people you've never met them face to face, but them know you,
Yeah.
right? Um, um, so what happens now is you have a more direct connection with them. They have a more direct connection with you, and then you can now create items that appeal to different people in different ways. And because you can do that, the value that is ascribed to a particular piece that you create varies depending on who wants it.
Yeah.
I might see a painting and I look at that painting, it does something for me. I pay $1,000 for it. Somebody else might say, "Yeah, I hate that. I wouldn't even pay $5 for that." But then another person comes in, has a completely different impact on them and say, "Oh my gosh, I'd pay $10,000 for that right now." Uniqueness of the same item that you created, and the impact it has on who is consuming it.
And
So
actually, I'm also even thinking that you're broadening your audience because now you have persons who don't want to consume your products with physical books, but are happy in a digital space. And
absolutely,
you're
absolutely,
giving, yeah, you're opening yourself up to another group of people.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's I mean that's going to be where the future is.
Yeah.
But how do you now make it special?
Right.
That particular item, how do you make it special for them, and how do you increase its value? Because you can't create whole heap of them,
No.
So how do you? Because look, you could create 10,000 books and they're all sold, but then you could create 5 versions of that book, and those 5 could sell for more than 10,000 that you put out there. Why? Because limited edition. It has something unique about it. Each one of them. People pay for numbered bottles of rum. Limited edition, limited creation, limited count. Why? Because they say, well, yeah, nobody else. Well, only 500 people have this.
So, but then I'm also curious, right? Because I like that idea from a self-publishing perspective to really kind of give yourself an edge above someone who has more of a following. But then you look at companies like Pearson's, which is one of our bigger traditional publishers in the educational space. And they are going the route of they're looking at NFTs, they're exploring that option because I mean the textbook industry loses out on that changing of hands down the lines.
Mhm.
And so there is something to be said if you have a very traditional publisher going with such um, joining the NFT space. And so I'm wondering, is there room for, would you even advocate for an author who is only distributing in the NFT space? And that is what's making them unique? Or do you feel that it's better to straddle, just kind of have, a unique space here, but then distribute your books in another forum?
Absolutely. So it's both. So from the larger publisher perspective, you would imagine that they have the same problem, but on a larger scale than you,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because let's say now, the educational system. So let's create a scenario. Um, Pearson or Carlong Publishers or any one of those guys, they create a math book, and the math book is only available digitally, right? Now, if I'm creative enough, of a class of 50 kids, I only need one copy of that book.
Of course.
If they get it, if I'm creative, well, that hurts the publisher because they may have invested uh, quite a bit in the creation of this thing and so on. But if there were a way to ensure that you put some level of, and I'm going to use this term, but it might be a little out of place, digital rights management
Mhm.
in the creation of this item, what you may be able to do is to minimize, not eliminate, but minimize the instances where, you have the one person give everybody else. Now, how do you do that? Well, in much the same way that you put uniqueness in a particular item, you can put uniqueness in each book,
Mm-hmm.
right? And and I'm not going to share that part because those things now are kind of like trade secret type things. So that's IP right there.
But then
But
I think too,
consider,
you had an app, and so the only way you could have access is if they come.
well, what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
if there were a way to ensure that you can't just simply
Right.
download it and then give it to anybody else, because the way in which it's created is such that it is tied to a particular mechanism, and that mechanism knows that Lisa bought this book.
Yeah.
When that book gets sent to somebody else, that somebody else is not Lisa. And there are wealth of things that we can check to see if that
Yeah.
other person is Lisa or not. And if you're not Lisa, you don't get access to the book.
Yeah. It's so fascinating, right? It's so fascinating.
Right. So the larger publishers can look at now a way of using NFTs um, to minimize instances where books are duplicated to their detriment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's say well, no, I'm not even going to talk about that one because that one is another. Let's say this: you register at a school, at a high school, and through your registration, you are entitled to the book, and your credentials are tied to the possession of the book. Because these are the kinds of systems that you have to develop now. Well, you want to make sure that for the life of the book and your existence in school, that in order for you to even have access to this book, one, you must be registered in school, two, you must have paid for it.
Yeah.
So another student can't just send it to you because the system that exists says you can't share this.
Right. Right.
Right? And if you share it, we're going to know because that's a transaction that's going to be written to a ledger that has some rules that says, oh, ding, 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 red flag, share. Right? Now, I use the term minimize because when you're in the digital realm, there are always going to be ways to circumvent. But the idea is when you move to that realm, you're minimizing the losses.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have a mechanism in place, trust me, you lose wholly. It's not like a paperback or a hardcover.
Yeah.
So I would suspect that they would use the technology and the underlying blockchain technology as a method of minimizing the way in which you know books are used, books are acquired, and how books move from hand to hand. I mean, right now you have book rental, right? How do you do that in the digital realm,
Right.
right? Um, these are some of the technologies that will be used. I mean, NFTs right now is synonymous with certain things, but the technology and what it is capable of doing lends itself to solving some of those problems that many publishers are contending with in when contemplating moving entirely digital.
Right.
Because you always hear the arguments, well, boy, we don't want to put anything on a tablet because when you put it on a tablet, boy, from it go on one tablet, it can go on 10. And we can't control who buy what.
Right.
So we
Right.
like the books because only one person can take the book home. Right? You might be able to share it in class,
Yeah,
but
or you keep the same book and then it goes down through generations. I mean, how many generations have used the same copy of
right.
all of our literature books, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's the kind of thing that in the digital realm these are problems that this kind of thing addresses. Those are the things that are being explored now because right now the hype behind NFT is the fact that people are getting ridiculous amounts of money for images and so on. but also people are starting to see the value that, okay, when I create something, regardless of what happens to it in its life cycle, I can always get what is due to me. And that lends itself to some very interesting possibilities. If I want to have direct engagement to my fans, or to my readers, and so on, um, I can create that now. If
Yeah.
I want to create limited edition creations, books, paintings, pictures, whatever, I can now do that, and then I can ascribe unique value to each one that I create. And that unique value will vary over time. And regardless of how, because the value really depends on who is consuming it and the value it has to them. Um, but regardless of how that plays out, um, I'm always going to get my cut as the original creator, always. And that is what the technology that is blockchain and NFTs will do.
Okay.
I,
Okay.
I hope that kind of,
It's
because I try not to get too technical with it, like
uh,
how blockchain works and how it does what it does and some, but
which
the
I don't think
idea.
is necessary for an author to know. I think the big takeaway from this conversation this evening is that it's another option to pursue
Yes.
in the myriad of options that exist that allow you to publish.
Yep.
Um, it has to be part of a very strategic and well thought out plan for how you're marketing or how you're marketing your books and who you choose to make it available to.
All right.
And certainly has to form a part of a bigger professional plan because
Absolutely. Absolutely.
it's costly at this point in time. Minting is not something that you just kind of jump into and you go, hey, I'm going to mint. There is a cost attached.
Yeah.
And
So
yeah.
let me speak really really quickly about that. So when this stuff first started, and the platforms that they ran on, the primary platform it used to run on was a platform called a blockchain platform called Ethereum. There used to be a cost to mint. And the reason for that was because of the resources that were required to do the minting process, the cryptographic, um, the encryption, and all of that hippity doody stuff. What has happened now over the past, just probably a couple years, um, or probably a year or two, is you have more options now
Hmm.
as it relates to minting. So you have situations where you can mint, or marketplace where you can mint for zero money. Um, you have marketplaces where you can mint, but in the rules you say, look, mint this item, but only charge me when the item is bought.
Okay.
So what happens on the platform that did the minting has its own rule that says, okay, whenever this thing is minted, don't charge the creator, but when it's bought, take 5%. Just
Like print on demand. That would be how Amazon works
right.
or Barnes and Noble. Yeah.
So they use that concept. So it doesn't cost you to mint. You don't lose anything. So you don't have capital expenditure, right? But what
Right.
happens is once the thing is bought, then you get your money, and the platform that mints the item gets its money. They also have an option where um, you don't even mint anymore. What happens is you put the item on the marketplace. You set up all of the rules, and you say mint when somebody asks for it.
Okay.
Right. So and sometimes what that does is it gives you the option of saying, okay, look, when somebody wants this item, let's give them some options of things that they may want that can be tied to that item, which you couldn't do that before because you minted it and it mint already, and whatever you get, you get. But now you have the ability to say, listen, there are some other things that you can get with this item, and they choose the stuff. It's more interactive that way. They choose the stuff, and when they choose that stuff, then it's minted, and the cost of the minting is based on what they choose.
Nice,
And
nice.
you get that too because
Yeah.
you're giving these options. It might say you can buy the book and you just get the book, or you can buy the book and get lunch with Lisa, or you can buy the book and you can have a private discussion or a Zoom meeting to discuss aspects of the book after you read it. And anything that you can think of that you would want to offer to make the book more enticing or the asset more enticing, to make it more unique and more enticing to somebody. And you can do that for each one individually. But
So
when you do the mint on demand, you can give more options now that changes. So now the price of the item is fluid
yeah,
depending on what they choose.
yeah,
So you have those kinds of things that this allows you to do, and it opens a whole new set of possibilities and whole new way to be creative with the
yeah.
creation that you made, right? So
It's
that's kind of
exciting.
what can happen
Is there
there.
any collaboration between platforms? So just like how I can connect my merchandising platform with my website so that you can just order through my website, or I can connect. Are there those types of collaborations, or I still have to set up?
Yeah. So right. So that's always been an ongoing challenge, and that is our challenge with the blockchain technology. And what it's called in the fancy technical terms is cross chain integration.
Okay.
Because if you develop something, most times the blockchains for certain marketplaces are developed for that marketplace and they're isolated, so to speak. So you couldn't say, like how you might go on Amazon and then you go on Etsy and you go and there's integration between all of them where you can have your book show up on all of them in a seamless way. There's work being done to do that in a in as seamless a way as it is now with the traditional e-commerce type things. But the challenge there is because the the information associated with the item is stored on that particular blockchain.
Right.
It's hard to then take that and transfer it to another blockchain because the process of creation is unique for the
Mm,
item and the chain.
okay.
You can just up and take it and put it somewhere else.
Right.
Don't. So what they're doing now is looking at uh, cross-chain integration using what they call on-chain, off-chain data, so that there's some stuff that you don't put on the chain, but it would allow you to be able to identify the asset across different marketplaces and chains. And that's getting into the technical stuff, which
Right.
I don't want to get into that.
I know it's so fascinating though, because who would have thought that this is where technology would have taken us, right? And that we would even be having these conversations.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's,
And to
I'm
think
so,
it germinated out of the fact that some people didn't trust banks. And they wanted a system that would eliminate the middleman to allow you to exchange value in much the same way that bartering worked many centuries ago. And when you think about bartering, it's really a decision between two people who view the value of each other's possessions in a different way.
yeah,
So I may have a cow, you have a goat, but right now, that goat value as much as this cow
yeah,
for me. And you look on the cow and say, yeah, right now the cow would have worked good for me. So let's trade.
yeah,
Right? You don't need any arbiter to deal with that because we are determining the value. Same
exactly.
thing with your works of art, your creation. It's like, look, you have, I mean, look, I have a comic book collection, and there are certain comics that I have because when I was young, I used to be into comics. But there are certain comics that I have. When I bought them, the person who was selling them said, "Yeah, I don't need this. Yeah, sell it for $1,000." And I said, "Yeah, thank you very much. Have a nice day." But when you go and value that thing,
Yeah.
the value of that thing is 50 times what you paid for it.
Yeah.
Why is that? Because the person who had it didn't value it as much as somebody else,
Yeah.
right? Same sort of situation, but now we're doing it in a realm where everything is ones and zeros. It's digital. It's very difficult to put your hand on it, so you can't just take it back. So you have to have a way to make sure that who is entitled to it gets it. Um, who is entitled to get royalties, get the royalties. Whenever it exchanges hands in that realm that we can't touch and feel, everybody gets what they're supposed to get. And up until now, that was almost impossible.
Can we pay for this process using just regular currency, or is it only cryptocurrency that facilitates the marketplace?
Excellent question, and we'll have to. You see our reach now, time wise. Right. So, um, right. So how do you pay for this stuff? And let me go through that process because it's important for people who are looking to get into this to understand that process. You don't directly pay for this stuff with traditional cash, which is the fiat currency that we're used to. This space is has always been designed to work in its own little realm,
Mhm.
decentralized realm that does not like the traditional way of doing things. So, in minting an NFT, you have to if you're minting on a platform that requires payment, you have to pay with cryptocurrency. All right, well, how do I get that? Well, the first thing you need in order to participate in this space is a digital wallet.
Okay.
You can get you have many digital wallets out there, um, but you need a digital wallet. They
It's a
come
local digital wallet designed to facilitate.
Digital wallets come in various forms. You have two general forms: custodial and non-custodial. The non-custodial one is the one that you own, that
Mhm.
you can, you know, get for yourself. The custodial ones are the ones that you actually get when you go onto an exchange. And I'm going to talk about the exchange now. The exchange is where you can take regular money and buy
Right.
cryptocurrency. Because you're saying so you need a digital wallet in order to participate in the minting process. The minting process says you need a certain amount of crypto to mint. Well, where do you get the crypto from? All right. Well, you have to then go on an exchange, and in signing up on an exchange like Binance, Coinbase, if you're local, the exchange you need to use are Kraken, which with a K, and CEX, because those exchanges actually allow you to use your debit card to buy crypto. And it's not every debit card that can do it. You will almost have unfettered luck with NCB cards and accounts. They work flawlessly. Scotia, not so much. Um, but you go onto an exchange, and the exchange you sign up on an exchange, and the exchange allows you to take your regular money and buy crypto. When you go onto the exchange, by virtue of signing up, you get a wallet,
Right.
and that wallet can be used on the marketplace platform to pay for minting,
Okay.
right? Because what a wallet is a very long string of numbers that are unique, and once the marketplace knows that unique identifier of where the funds is coming from, they say thank you very much, we can work with that, and so on. So you need a digital wallet. You need an account on an NFT marketplace. You also need an account on an exchange, right? Because the crypto exchange is where you can purchase cryptocurrency with regular fiat currency so that you can then pay for the minting on the NFT marketplace.
And I would assume then once your book is sold, you are paid in cryptocurrency.
Yes.
That
So,
in rev-
on the NFT marketplaces, you purchase using cryptocurrency.
yeah.
So then now the question is, well, how do I transfer that back to
Hmm.
real money? And again, the exchanges that you use, a lot of them are, hashing out arrangements and agreements with different financial institutions that then allow you to take what cryptocurrency you have and exchange it for fiat. Again, it's uh, it's not an easy or friendly process these days for a variety of reasons. The cryptocurrency space lends itself to nefarious actors and activities, so that governments and financial institutions are very wary. There are tracking mechanisms being explored, but the whole idea was to create an environment that didn't depend on regulators or banks or governments, that governments could control or banks could control. So, so again, there is a restriction as to how you can move funds between these environments, between the fiat currency environment and the crypto environment. Um, but the thing about it is, you can also function in that world with using entirely cryptocurrency. So, just to give an example, there are stores that you can go to now, even Starbucks. You can go to stores now and pay for goods with crypto.
I was about to ask you about that. So you
Yeah,
almost don't even have to convert.
yeah. So there are places that you can go to and use that crypto to purchase goods.
Yeah.
Um, and it goes from coffee at Starbucks to clothing at certain jewelry. I know Reed's Jewelers, they are accepting cryptocurrency. Um, I was just looking at, so I'm a watch fan, and Tag Heuer, they are accepting cryptocurrencies. Breitling, they accept crypto for watches and so it's you have other options for using your crypto if you have a problem, but where a lot considerable work is being done to lessen the friction between the crypto space and the fiat space, so that people can move between. The major concern is um, you know the nefarious actors, the anti-money laundering, terrorism, that kind of stuff. So
And,
that's
and hopefully, because you're functioning within a particular space, it minimizes
yeah,
those kinds of restrictions.
yeah,
Wow. I feel like we've only just like touched the surface of what this all
yeah,
entails.
yeah. No, there's so much going on in the space right now. It's very exciting. Um, as you know, I'm a blockchain. I mean, I really feel I say it's the next best thing to sliced bread after the internet, because the internet revolutionized and fundamentally changed information exchange.
Right.
Blockchain technology will fundamentally change value exchange,
Right.
and it will do so in some spectacular ways. I mean, we haven't even seen. Listen, the craziest NFT thing I've seen so far, you can actually buy a house,
Wow.
right? The first one was done in Tampa a couple months ago, where somebody NFT'd a house.
Nice.
Why? It's easy. What says you own the house? A title.
Yeah.
What's a title? A piece of paper. Well, you make that digital, and suddenly proof of ownership
Mm-hmm.
is the NFT.
and far less easy to tamper with, right? So
And it
look at
quick.
that. Yeah.
It quick. The transaction happens in seconds.
So is the legal system embracing this? Because in some systems you would have to have a title. So if I did that with a house here,
So that's a legislative constraint.
right? Okay.
You change the laws to treat with that,
Yeah.
but the technology doesn't care. So it's a legislative impediment, but you if you change the laws to facilitate that, then it happens.
Yeah.
so so that's the kind of stuff that's happening. It's very exciting. I can tell you legislation has not caught up with it yet, but what is happening is there's a lot of discussion about how you regulate this stuff to protect you know the people who will be using this stuff,
Yeah.
because there is room for a lot of fraudulent activity to occur, especially given the fact that if you don't, you are responsible for everything that you possess in that space and that you create in that space.
Okay.
There is no middleman, there's no arbiter, which means there's nobody you can cuss if you make a mistake, or if the person on the other end make a mistake, or if you thief somebody book or somebody thief your book, because all of the deliberation is between the two people. There is no middleman, right?
Right.
So you can't tell Amazon the thing didn't come, give me
Yeah.
my money back.
Yeah.
No, there is no so regulation seeks to treat with that, and to increase the level of safety and trust in the real world, outside of what prevails in the digital world.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know, Trevor. You might have to do at some point, once our audience digests all of this and try and fiddle with it a bit. They may ask you for an encore.
Yeah,
Say,
well, that depends on whether or not this stuff even made sense to your audience, right?
it's funny because when we had our conversation, our initial conversation, prior to this, I mentioned it to one of my students. And of course, he could reel off, right? Or he could tell me exactly what NFTs are. And oh, and Angelisa, and did you know? And show me all of this interesting artwork that has been sold for so much. And so he challenged me to create an NFT with one of my publications.
Ah,
So
there
I
you
know
go.
I, for one, will be returning with lots of questions for you when I try it, and just to let you know how that process goes.
All right.
So,
Just to, and I don't know if I can put this in like the chat or anything. Let me see if I can do this here. Um, yeah, maybe. Okay, let me put it in a private chat. I'm just gonna put some NFT marketplaces for books.
okay.
So I just put three of them there. Um, I don't know if you can see it in the private chat.
Yes,
Yeah, you see it?
I do.
Right. So Creatokia, Bookcoin, and there's a publishing company, WIP Publishing. They're getting into NFTs big. And I think when we spoke about it, I'd given you a couple of others too that you could have looked at. So those three there are places that you can go. And then of course there is the usual suspects: OpenSea, Rarible, Rarity, all of those traditional ones.
I'm gonna share it. And just,
Yeah.
and if you want to put, I don't know if anyone ever wants to reach out to you at any point. If you want to share like your Twitter handle or
Oh,
anything.
right. Yeah. Let me put that in there as well. So Twitter for me is easy. It's Trevor Forrest, or at Trevor Forrest. Same thing with Instagram. Um, so that's my handle there. So it's at Trevor Forrest. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram. Um, my email address, put that in there too. Um, to um, um, yeah. So yeah, those are my email addresses.
Let me copy that one across. Nice, nice. I'm sure you'll get some follow-up questions. Um, I definitely think. Oh, oops.
Yeah, that's my Gmail.
And I left off the other one.
Mm.
All right, I'm just gonna leave one for now.
Okay, that's yeah. I forgot the T.
Yes, exactly. So I tried to get them all in the same box, and then okay.
Yeah.
My audience laughs at me every week. There's always some kind of tech issue. They know that I am a work in progress.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Oh my gosh, Trevor, thank you so much for your time this evening. This was, I expected it to be interesting and I expected it to be enlightening, but you've left me with like 10 million more questions because
Yeah.
you've still
That's
got
a good thing.
more possibilities than I even imagined.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
very exciting stuff, man. So yeah, the fact that you have more questions is a good thing because now you're starting to understand why it is so exciting and why it's so valuable, this new realm.
I want the time. I want the time to jump in and really digest all of these options because, it's a great time to be a publisher and to be a self-publisher. It's so much
Yeah.
more accepted
Yeah.
as something that you can do. And the discourse elsewhere between North America and Europe is that self-publishers, well, people, authors generally want to own this process more. They're not interested in going through traditional publishers. And so these are the conversations they're having. And I want to hear these conversations more in the Jamaican space because we can own this industry in
Right.
a way more.
And you speak about the discussions. A lot of the discussions that occur on this kind of stuff happens on Twitter, happens in places like Discord. They have WhatsApp groups that do that. These are global, right?
Yeah.
So for people who want to find out more about this stuff, start in Twitter.
Yeah, and I'm going to share Trevor's Twitter and Instagram handles because if you reach out to him and you check under his following and his followers, you'd probably find more
I see
person.
a couple. Yeah, you might see a couple.
So that's how the network. I mean, I'm a Twitter person too, right? There's so much.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Yeah. So
Great.
So yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
All right. Take care. Enjoy your evening.
You too, and bye to your audience. Thanks for having me.
My Chasing Dreamers. Thank you, Chasing Dreamers, for joining us and hanging out with us a little bit longer than we normally do.
Yeah, right.
I will see you next Thursday, same place, same time, 8:30. Have a great evening.